Welcome to the HCI family of podcasts. We're your source for personal, professional, and organizational growth and development. We share our own original research, explore industry trends, and interview executives and thought leaders from across the globe. Join us for practitioner-oriented content around all things leadership, HR, talent management, organizational development, and change management. Maximize your personal and organizational potential with the HCI family of podcasts. Lauren Tropeano, welcome to the conversation today.
Thank you so much, John, for having me.
Yeah, it's a real pleasure to be with you. You're joining us from the Boston area. I'm south of Salt Lake City in Utah. And today we're going to be talking about how companies can tap into the humanity of their people in the era of AI. Everyone, I think, is freaking out at the moment. I mean, most people, it seems like, are freaking out about displacement and disruption and all the things related to technology and AI adoption in the workplace. And I think, to an extent, those fears are certainly valid. But I do also think they get a bit overblown. And I think a part of that is because organizations aren't necessarily always doing a great job of communicating or showing their people how they value them within this kind of disruptive context. So leaning into the humanity piece and recognizing the humanity of your human capital is, as it has always been, vital and important to creativity, innovation, all the things that will help you bring value to the market. All that continues to be true. We just have a new set of tools now, and we have a new, way to augment our productivity and augment, how we accomplish the work that we're trying to do, perhaps in a world where work is going to get redesigned a bit, but people still matter. They have always mattered and they always will matter. And so, I'm just thrilled to have a chance to unpack this with you and have a nice conversation today. As we get started, I wanted to share Lauren's bio with everybody. Lauren Tropeano is Chief People Officer at Docebo. She brings over 20 years of human resource expertise to Docebo, having led diverse multinational teams for several global high-growth tech companies. Prior to her current role, she was Chief People Officer at Skillshare, a leader in creative learning from 22 to 24. She also held several executive roles leading global people teams at tech companies such as DraftKings, Cogito, Pivotal Software, and Dell, among others. Just such a really great background. In all of these roles, she's led teams and organizations through several periods of rapid growth and transformation. She's also the founder of Destination People, a boutique human resource consulting firm. She received her MBA from the University of Massachusetts at Amherst and B.A. in organizational behavior from Boston College. Again, just a real pleasure to have you, Lauren. Thank you so much for sitting down with me. Before we really launch into the broader conversation, anything that you would like to highlight by way of your background and personal context?
Sure, absolutely. So thank you so much for the kind intro and for sharing my bio. What I would just say is I found my way somewhat accidentally into this niche of hyper growth or transforming technology companies over the past 20 years. And it's just been such a sweet spot and such a place where I've both learned so much and it's just a pleasure to do this work, even though it is quite challenging at times, just given how disruptive and how, the companies that I work for are constantly evolving, but it's a lot of fun. So I would just offer that as well.
Yeah, well, constant evolution, constant adaptation, I think is the name of the game today.
Yeah,
So,
for sure.
we can't, it seems like, we can't really sit back and rest and relax too much. But as we learn to have learning teams and more agile teams, I also don't think it needs to be, as scary as I think people often kind of find it to be. And it's totally understandable. Like we're hardwired. Our brains are set up that way as human animals. We have fight, flight
True. Yeah.
response or freeze response when things are scary or disruptive or challenge the status quo. We like stability or at least the illusion of it. And so yeah, it's no wonder that people have the responses that people are having. But that's all the more reason why leaders within organizations can really lean into, the open transparency and communication, emphasizing the human side and humane approach to how they're incorporating, these new tools and such. So yeah, just so important. All right, as we launch on into this conversation, you have an interesting background. You in addition to all of your executive roles, you have your own consulting business.
Mhm.
MBA, organizational behavior undergrad. You've done a lot with studying human psychology. Why do you feel like it's so important, as a skill set for leaders in any kind of capacity to better understand human psychology and how it plays into team dynamics and organizational dynamics?
Yeah, so studying and kind of geeking out over psychology is just, I would say, like one of my hobbies, which is kind of a funny or strange hobby. I'm not really formally trained as a psychologist or anything like that. But to answer your question, I think that, what whomever you're working with, your stakeholder is, your customer, or whatever you want to call it, I think it's really important to understand them thoroughly. And, as we think about how to help people navigate their environments, change their um, helping them deepen their understanding of themselves. It's important for leaders to actually understand that psychology themselves as well, right? Because humans are arguably the most complex beings, on this planet, and there's a lot to learn. There's a lot of different facets that people bring, and that's what I think makes humans so interesting, is that every single one
Yeah.
of us is extremely unique. And in that vein, it's worth really diving in and trying to understand how humans are wired and how we think and some of the things that make us, who we are, and influence our behaviors and all of that. It's very valuable, I find.
Yeah, well, me too. And I definitely have leaned into the social sciences. I actually had switched majors a bunch of times. I was accounting major,
Oh,
business major, blah blah blah. And then I ended up as a sociology major. As before I graduated with some business minors. And in part it was just, yeah, I really wanted to understand kind of organizational theory. I wanted to understand people dynamics. I wanted to understand all that better. And I think it served me incredibly well. Now, that doesn't mean like we don't have crystal balls. It's not like we can read people's minds. It's not like you're never going to be able to do that, right? And everyone is so unique. So even when like kind of generalities, trends, stereotypes, and research that backs up some of the common tropes and whatever, like there's no replacement for just knowing your people and just
it's
like
so true.
having
Yeah.
conversations with them.
Yeah,
But that said, if you have the frameworks and the theories and you have like the other I see them as tools in a toolkit, and if you
yeah,
have those, it helps you better understand where people are coming from. And so when you do have those one-on-one conversations with members of your team, you have maybe a broader array of ways to approach it and to respond to it, and to
exactly.
just understand it. So I
Yeah.
100%, think that grounding in human psychology, you don't need to pretend to be a therapist. But you can absolutely have a better understanding of what makes people, respond the way they do to certain stimuli, and to know how you can better lead them. And it's not like a parlor trick. It's not like how do I better manipulate my people, but it's just like how can I be a more genuine, supportive, empowering leader, right?
Right. And it really goes back to just trying to understand and empathize. And so if you can understand, hey, this person may be showing up this way or that way because of maybe this thing, or if you are astute enough to lean into inquiry and questioning, that can really be helpful to try to understand the context of someone's world, or someone's background. So it's about curiosity and listening and combining those things, and then just really trying to understand, like, the complexity of human behavior. That's all.
Yeah, and I like that emphasis on curiosity. Amen to that. Like we all, I think, man, we live in such a polarized world at the moment, like socially, politically, economically, like all these different things that divide people, unfortunately. And yeah, I mean, just recognizing what drives that in and of itself is good. And then once we have a better understanding around, the need of just constantly learning and growing and having the intellectual humility to be able to say, hey, I don't know everything, and that's okay. And I'm going to stay curious. I'm going to continue to learn. I'm going to continue to experiment. Man, I think the world would be such a better place if everyone took on that mindset. We wouldn't have so much polarization. We wouldn't have so much, just strife, as people
So
approach
true.
things from
Yeah.
such different perspectives.
Yeah.
Because, like, do I have my own perspective? Do I have my own biases? Of course. I have my own background, my own upbringing, my own baggage, like all that kind of stuff. That all informs how I approach the world. And so, of course, I'm going to have what I think is the right way, in various things that I interact with and how I interact with people. But that doesn't mean I have to impose my right way on other people, or that I need to, or that I can't still try to understand where they're coming from and why they might choose to do something differently than the way I do it. And just having that like mutual respect for people,
That's
it
exactly right.
requires intellectual humility. It requires curiosity. And so yeah, I just wanted to double click on that because I think perhaps in the current context we find ourselves in socially, that's a fairly simple, small thing, but it seems to be a very hard thing, to get back to.
Yeah, it is so true. It's I mean, these are just, foundations of our species, right? Like this is the fabric of who we are and how we've evolved over time. And even in extremely complicated and nuanced conditions that we live in today, going back to these principles it's just so powerful for connection and connecting as humans. Uh, yeah.
Yeah. And years ago, so back when I was going through my master's program, I remember, sitting in a class, I think it was an organizational behavior class actually, and we were talking about various theories and frameworks and whatnot. And I have always loved that stuff. I eat that stuff up. I'm kind of the same. Like I think my
Likewise.
my wife thinks I'm a bit of a, she's like, John, you need to get more hobbies. I'm like, dude, I like this is my hobby. Like this is the stuff that
Reading psychology books.
I just love this stuff, right?
Yeah.
But I remember back then, I remember just sitting there and listening and learning and like lots of great stuff. And I still use a lot of that stuff. And there's been lots of other stuff I've learned in the interim. But I also remember sitting back one day and just thinking, how can I simplify this in my mind in a way that will help kind of guide me as I move forward? And it kind of came down to what you just said a little bit ago. Like, if I'm going to be a good leader, are there specific frameworks, theories that are going to be helpful? Yes. Understanding of human psychology is going to be helpful. Yes. Um, do I need to have technical expertise and team and leadership expertise? Yes, all those things are helpful, right? But there's a foundation in my mind that has to be present in order for someone to actually truly be a good leader. And it starts with that curiosity, that intellectual humility, and it starts with self-reflection. Like I have to be willing to challenge my thinking, to challenge my biases, and to learn more about myself in
Yeah.
order to be in a better position to understand, empathize with, and learn about and understand the people I'm working with. And if
Yeah.
I can't do
Definitely.
that first, if I can't first understand myself and understand my people, like truly, then I can have like all the technical expertise in the world in all these other areas, and I'm still probably going to suck as a leader because being a leader is like 90+% of all the people stuff, all the human
It's
stuff,
so
and
true.
a
Yeah.
lot less of like the technical expertise once you get to that level.
Yeah.
And that, whatever clicked in my head at that moment, that has served me very well, in the intervening, 20 whatever so years, because, I come back to that again and again and again, and it becomes a like a reciprocal kind of, I see it like an upward spiraling, growth pattern. As I
Yep.
understand more about myself, I have the capacity to better understand others. As I
That's exactly
learn
right.
more and
Yeah.
understand more about others, I learn more about
Yep.
myself. And it's never ending. Like I don't ever arrive. I just hopefully continue
We're
to grow.
constantly evolving. Yes,
Yeah.
that's exactly right. We're constantly evolving as humans. And if we have if we have the self-awareness to understand that, we won't always have the answers, but continuing to ask ourselves the questions and keep ourselves open and curious, that's really where the growth comes from. And the one other thing I will say, just I'm just like violently nodding yes to all the things that you just mentioned. But even just taking it out of the work context, as you think about just developing yourself and evolving as a human in any relationship, whether that be with your significant other or your children or friends, how lovely is it to be in relationship with someone that is very curious about you and is interested in knowing you deeply? That is a wonderful feeling that if we can bring that feeling and that connectedness into the workplace, I mean, that really is, it's something unconventional and it's really magical. So, yeah, and it's quite
It
simple.
is. And I think there's nothing like new to what we're saying. Like lots of
Yeah,
people have thought about this and talked about this and written about this for forever, but it's really hard. It's hard to do.
yeah,
Because it just again we're human animals and like we have all these kind of, hardwired impulses and ways that we tend to respond to stuff.
and
And
pressures.
we
Yeah,
have to choose. Like we have to notice when those things show up for us and we have to
yeah,
choose how we're going to respond. to be more having more empathy and being more patient and
Mhm.
training ourselves to listen more and all those sorts of things. And that's hard. Like that really is hard, and it's not
The
something
practice,
that most people can just like do. Like
right?
every now and then I meet someone who I'm like, oh my gosh, you are just like a natural born empathic leader. Like, there are people that have that natural skill, but I think the vast majority of us are like me, where, I kind of know conceptually what I should be doing and what I want to try to do. And then I fumble around like trying to actually do it.
Yeah, it's a daily practice. It's like anything that you're trying to get good at and trying to, build skill in. You have to try it, experiment. Some days you're going to be really great at it. Other days you may not be, but that's okay because I think the effort is actually what matters more than exactly how you show up perfectly every day.
Yeah. And noticing the time, man, we're having such a fun conversation. I think we could go on forever, but I also
Yeah.
know that you have to get on with your busy day here in a little bit. But maybe for the next 5 or so minutes, I'd love to get your thoughts more on like specifically this AI piece, this technological disruption piece. We've talked so much about listening and learning and growing with your people and the humanness of like our teams and stuff.
Mhm.
How have you navigated this with your teams, as we're leaning into AI disruption and like trying to figure that all out?
Yeah. So I'll start by saying that, AI is all around us, and most companies that are, trying to grow and evolve are adopting many different forms of AI, whether that be through tools and technology or, people using ChatGPT or Claude or things like that. And so I would say that the tools are generally available to everybody, right? Whether you're in a company or even not within a corporate setting. But the difference that will be made within any company is really all about the people that are using the tools, right? So at Docebo, we are taking a lens to this, which is, hey, we really want to enrich and enable and support our people with these tools, but we're focused on making sure that the human that uses the tool is upskilled, supported, that they're invited to use these things and to go on this AI journey with us very thoughtfully, rather than having, a forced mandate or something like that. Again, if you it it's a very slight nuance, but when you invite someone to come along and you invite them to have curiosity about something or experimentation or play or fun or whatever you want to call it, it feels a lot different than, a forced mandate that you have to, use this in your workflow now or implement this number of hours of your day using, this new tool. It feels differently. And so for us, the individual, the person is always at the core. And our goal is to do a lot with enabling them. And that's true internally, but it's also true for, how we think about learning in our industry and with our products and with our customers as well. So it's a nice bridge between what we're doing internally and ultimately what we share with the world from a product and philosophy standpoint.
Yeah, yeah, I love that. And you said the word play,
Mhm.
which I love that kind of framing around all of this because
Yeah,
it feels scary. People are worried about displacement,
for
losing their
sure.
jobs and all that. I'm
Yeah,
like, it's not about, I mean, will there be tasks that get displaced?
yeah,
Yes. And
yeah.
eventually will there be jobs that get displaced eventually? But we'll create new jobs too. And
That's
so
right.
it's
Yeah.
about supporting people and reskilling and upskilling. And
Mhm.
and it's about human augmentation.
That's right.
It's not about displacement. It's like how can we do what we're already doing to be successful as a business, to add value to the market? How can we do that even more, even better by using these new tools, right?
That's
And
right.
then supporting your
Exactly.
people in doing that.
Yeah, and
If you
evolving how we think about our work. It may be that we did things a certain way or through a certain workflow, but now is the time to invite that, that curious thinking of, oh, like I may have done it that way, but is there a different way? And then what capacity might that unlock for me that I can then go and explore and do something totally new or cool or make a different or bigger impact?
Yeah, and framing it as play, it just kind of changes the whole dynamic for folks. And
A lot
I
lighter.
I love playing with
Yeah,
and experimenting with AI tools and workflows and agentic AI and everything. Like it's just so
yeah,
much fun. Like it really is. And so, you don't have to be so scared if it's just
that's
something you're
right.
playing with, right?
Yeah, again, I think like words matter and just how you're inviting people to approach something, it really makes a difference. Going back to that psychology,
Yeah.
talk that we were on before.
Well, Lauren, this has just been a great conversation. Again, I know at the time I need to let you go here in a minute, but before we wrap up for today, I wanted to give you a chance to share with the audience how they can connect with you, find out more about your work, your team, and then give us the final word for today.
Awesome. Thank you again so much for having me, John. Please feel free to connect with me on LinkedIn. I would welcome any connection requests. You can find more information about my background there, also about my business, Destination People. As John mentioned, I run a boutique advisory firm for companies that are very curious about scaling their culture without losing their heart and soul.
Thank you, Lauren. It's been a pleasure. I encourage the audience to reach out, to get connected, find out more about what Lauren can do for you. And as always, I hope everyone can stay healthy and safe, that you can find meaning and purpose at work each and every day. And I hope you all have a great week. Thanks for joining us for this episode of the podcast. We hope you stay healthy and safe, and please join us again soon.